What if you could stop working in just 10 years by investing only $1,000 a month? No lottery, no miracle stock, just math, working in your favor. But here's the catch. Most people think they understand how this works until they forget one crucial force that eats their money silently. For millions of Americans, early retirement sounds like a fantasy. It feels out of reach, especially with inflation rising, housing unaffordable, and wages barely keeping up. So when someone says you can retire in 10 years by investing $1,000 a month, it sounds impossible. But let's break it down, because this idea, as crazy as it seems, isn't just a dream. It's a math problem, and the sooner you understand how it works, the sooner you can flip the system in your favor. So, let's run the numbers. We're going to explore two main investment strategies: fixed income instruments like treasury bonds and high-yield savings, and REITs, real estate investment trusts, which are the American equivalent of income-generating properties. But more importantly, we're going to do what most videos skip. We're going to adjust everything for inflation, because it's not just about the numbers on the screen. It's about what those numbers can actually buy in the future. And here's where it gets real. Most people invest blindly, chasing returns, without realizing their money is losing value every year. If your portfolio grows 7% a year, but inflation eats 3%, your real gain is only 4%. But wait, there's more. Because if you're investing in a taxable account, you're also losing part of your return to Uncle Sam. So what you thought was a comfortable future may actually be a shortfall in disguise. But don't worry, this isn't a fear story. This is a clarity story. And once you see the path fully adjusted for reality, you'll realize that retiring in 10 or 15 years is possible, but only if you play smart from day one. Let's say you decide to play it safe. You open a high-yield savings account or invest in treasury bonds. They're stable, predictable, and feel responsible. You commit. I'll invest $1,000 a month for the next 10 years. No skipping, no excuses. At a 5% annual return, which is generous for fixed income products, you run the numbers. After 10 years, you'd have around $155,000. That sounds pretty good, right? But here's the problem. That's nominal money, not real money. Because inflation never sleeps. And in the US, inflation has averaged 2.5 to 3% over the past 20 years. More recently, it's been closer to 4 to 5%, which means your $155,000 won't feel like $155,000 when you get there. In fact, adjusted for 3% annual inflation, that future amount would have the buying power of only about $115,000 today. And if your monthly income from that portfolio is, say, $650, it might only buy what $500 buys today, and that's before taxes. This is the silent danger of long-term investing without adjustments. You think you're climbing the mountain, but the ground beneath you is slowly sinking. It's like walking up a down escalator. You're moving, but not really getting ahead. And that's why we can't just look at returns in a vacuum. We need to understand real return, the gain after inflation, taxes, and fees. Because only then can you answer the real question. Can you actually live on that money 10 years from now? If not, then $1,000 a month might not be your finish line. It might just be the starting block. Most people make one critical mistake when planning for early retirement. They assume their contributions will stay flat forever. $1,000 a month today, $1,000 a month next year, $1,000 a month 5 years from now. But here's the truth. That plan quietly collapses under inflation, because $1,000 today is not the same as $1,000 in 2034. And if you don't adjust your contributions, you're not just standing still, you're falling behind. So what's the solution? Simple. Annual contribution adjustments. Let's say you raise your monthly investment by just 3% a year to keep pace with inflation and salary growth. In year 1, you invest $1,000 a month. In year 2, you raise it to $1,030. Year 3, $1,060, and so on. That small shift changes everything. Instead of arriving at retirement with $155,000, You now finish the decade with closer to $180,000 to $200,000, depending on the return rate. Even better? If you invest in tax-advantaged accounts like a Roth IRA or 401k, you shield a large part of your gains from taxes, boosting your real return even further. Now add reinvestment to the equation, because as your portfolio grows, it starts generating dividends and interest, and when you reinvest those earnings, you create layers of compounding. It's like planting a tree, and that tree starts planting more trees. And this is where most people underestimate the system. They think it's all about discipline, but it's also about design. Design a plan that grows with you. Design a system that adapts. And design your contributions not as a fixed rule, but as a flexible tool that keeps your progress alive. Because if your money isn't evolving, then it's slowly becoming obsolete. So far, we've talked about saving, adjusting, and growing your portfolio. But now let's look at the other side of the equation: monthly income. Because retiring early isn't about hitting a random number. It's about reaching the point where your assets pay your bills. And that's where REITs come in. REITs, or real estate investment trusts, are companies that own and operate income-producing real estate. Think shopping centers, apartment buildings, warehouses, office parks. When you invest in REITs, you're not buying a house. You're buying a slice of rent from dozens or even hundreds of properties. And the best part? By law, REITs in the US must pay out at least 90% of their taxable income as dividends. That means steady, consistent income, month after month. Now imagine this. You invest $1,000 a month into a diversified REIT portfolio. These REITs yield around 4% to 6% annually, depending on market conditions. But many of them also adjust with inflation because rents go up over time. As the cost of living rises, tenants pay more, and you collect more. That's powerful. Because unlike fixed income products, which lose value to inflation, REITs tend to track inflation or even outpace it. Let's run the math. After 10 years of investing $1,000 a month, adjusting for inflation and reinvesting dividends, you could build a portfolio worth $250,000 or more. At a 6% yield, that gives you $15,000 a year, or about $1,250 a month in passive income. Now, pause for a second. That's the equivalent of covering your rent or groceries or healthcare premiums without lifting a finger. And that income could keep growing every year as your REITs raise rents, expand portfolios, and reinvest profits. This is where retirement shifts from a someday dream to a monthly reality. Because when your money starts showing up like a paycheck, the game changes. Here's the truth no one likes to admit. The first 10 years of wealth building feel like nothing is happening. You're saving, you're investing, you're sacrificing dinners out, vacations, impulse buys. And for what? A few $1,000s in your account? Maybe a few hundred in passive income. It feels slow, invisible, pointless. And that's why most people give up. They think, if this is what it takes, I'll never get there. But here's what they don't realize. They're standing 1 inch away from the curve bending in their favor. Because wealth building isn't linear. It's exponential. It's not about how fast your portfolio grows in year 2. It's about what happens in year 12. Those early years are the hardest because you're doing all the lifting. You're pushing the snowball uphill. You're the engine. Your income, your discipline, your mindset. That's what keeps it moving. But with every dollar you invest, the snowball gets bigger. And one day, quietly, the hill starts to slope downward. You wake up, you check your account, and you realize your money just made $1,000 in a month. Without you. That's the shift. It doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't feel dramatic, but it's the moment when your effort stops carrying the system and starts steering it. And here's where it gets powerful. The people who make it aren't the smartest. They're not the richest. They're not even the most disciplined. They're the ones who kept going when it felt like it wasn't working. Because compounding doesn't reward speed. It rewards endurance. And if you can survive the quiet years, the loud ones will take care of themselves. There's a moment in every financial journey when the question shifts from, how hard can I work, to how can I stop working and still make progress? That's when you stop chasing money and start designing systems. Because real wealth doesn't come from hustle, it comes from automation. Every dollar you invest manually is a decision, and every decision takes energy. But what if those decisions made themselves? Here's how it looks in practice. Your paycheck hits. A fixed percentage gets auto-transferred to a high-yield savings account. Another portion moves straight into your Roth IRA or 401k. REIT dividends get reinvested automatically. Credit card payments fire off on schedule. Budget categories refill without you lifting a finger. That's a system. And systems don't get tired. They don't forget. They don't scroll through Amazon at 2 a.m. They don't cancel investments out of fear during a market dip. They just execute. And the best part? They free up your most valuable resource, attention. Because once your financial machine is running on rails, you don't have to think about it every day. You can focus on earning more, building skills, or living your life without the constant stress of wondering, am I doing enough? It's not about being perfect. It's about removing friction. And every friction point you eliminate is one less reason to fall off track. This is how wealth becomes sustainable. Not through willpower, not through spreadsheets, but through architecture that supports your future, even when you're tired, distracted, or discouraged. At some point, the numbers stop being numbers. You log into your investment account and see 6 figures staring back at you. But the real change isn't on the screen. It's in your head. Because now, you don't feel like someone chasing wealth. You feel like someone building something bigger than yourself. You stop seeing money as something to spend and start seeing it as a force multiplier. A $100 dinner out, that's not just a night out. It's a week of financial acceleration lost. A $300 gadget you don't need, that's not a toy. It's a dividend that will never be born. And it's not about being cheap, it's about clarity. You start asking new questions. Is this moving me forward or pulling me back? What's the compound cost of this habit? Am I spending like a consumer or building like an investor? You begin to realize that every dollar is a decision, and every decision echoes into your future. You no longer think in terms of what you can afford. You think in terms of what your future self deserves. And this shift, it changes your posture, your confidence, your patience. You stop comparing. You stop chasing shortcuts. You stop hoping for overnight success because now you know you don't need to get rich fast. You just need to stay consistent long enough to let the system do its job. Early retirement isn't just about leaving your job. It's about never having to trade time for survival again. It's about waking up on a Tuesday and deciding what you want to do, not what your boss wants from you. It's about freedom. Not just from work, but from fear. Because when your portfolio starts paying you more than your paycheck did, something changes. You stop living on defense. You stop budgeting with anxiety. You stop measuring life by how many hours you can sell. Instead, you start building your days with intention. More time with family. More space for creativity. More energy for what actually matters. And no, early retirement doesn't mean you'll do nothing. It means you'll finally do what you choose. And the best part? It's not reserved for millionaires. It's not locked behind Wall Street secrets. It's not some pipe dream. It's a formula. $1,000 a month invested consistently, adjusted for inflation, compounded over time, directed by a system, that's it. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Because every quiet sacrifice today is buying you louder freedom tomorrow. And every dollar you deploy is another brick in the foundation of a life you own. So, can you really retire in 10 years by investing $1,000 a month? Yes, but only if you understand this. The system doesn't reward the smartest. It rewards the most consistent. It rewards those who plan for inflation, who adjust as they grow, who reinvest every gain, who build systems that never clock out. Because early retirement isn't built in year 1. It's built in years 5 through 10, when your money starts pulling more weight than you do. So don't quit in the quiet part. Don't underestimate the snowball you're pushing today, because one day you'll look up and realize it's pushing you. Every dollar you invest today is a silent worker that never calls in sick, never asks for a raise, and never stops growing your future. Give it a job. Let it work for you. If this video helped clarify your path, like and subscribe for more stories that reveal how money really works. And tell us in the comments, what's the biggest obstacle keeping you from building your early retirement plan? And if you want to go deeper, don't stop here. Click on one of the videos on your screen right now. Each one will take you further into the strategies, history, and mindset shifts that can change the way you build wealth forever.